Well, welcome to Seavine, We the People, this week's episode. It's pretty exciting because we have Agnes Gibboney on today, who is an angel mom, and she has some very important things to tell us on what's going on with some of the new laws that is going to affect each and every single one of us. But first, I want to go ahead and share my screen and show you a few things first. So give me just a moment, please. All right, I want to ask everyone to please, if you see the subscribe button down below here, please go ahead and just click on that and subscribe to our station, and also hit the like button if you like what's going on. I just wanted to show you the c-fine.com website. This is an entire news site that was put together by you, by volunteers, by we the people. We the people are the ones that put all this together. Seavine stands for community voices, investigations, news, and education. So go on here. There's a lot that you are going to find. We've got all sorts of private investigators, a lot of them licensed. Besides citizen journalists, they're the ones that put all this together for you. And so that's why we have the Seavine We the People show. Now, also, if you would be so kind to observe the donation section that's up here at the top, if you would be willing to sign up and become a free member, or it would even be better to become a member that if you were donate like $5 a month, that would help us a great deal. Otherwise, we have one-time donations and everything else in here, but signing up will get your newsletter, and you will also be able to post on every single news story down at the bottom. So there'll be no censoring. Also, if you want to be interactive with us, not only with all our guests that we have, but many, many other people that are part of this, we are very active on Facebook. I know not everyone likes Facebook, but let me tell you, we've got over 24,000 members on Facebook, in the Facebook group, which it's the facebook.com groups. It's Seavine News Talk. Seavine News Talk is the URL for it, and this is what the page looks like. And we have all sorts of ongoing conversation 24 hours a day. So that's a good thing. Now, the other thing I wanted to tell you is I would like to introduce you to Agnes. Now, Agnes, I'll tell you, Trump absolutely loves her. Absolutely loves her. In fact, he tweeted here. I was just going to show you a picture of this tweet, bringing her up. And so I'm going to scroll up here a little bit. And our interview today with Angel Mom, Agnes Gibboney, is POTUS. Okay, my computer just went crazy. Our interview today, forgive me, is with Angel Mom, Agnes Gibboney, who POTUS has supported on Twitter and is invited to the White House. Agnes is now running for Congress in District 31 in California, and it was because of President Trump that she has decided to run. The statistics on dangerous illegal immigrants being turned into our streets after imprisonment is staggering. Agnes is going to inform us on what is really going on. And Agnes Gibboney's story is, to make it worse, is really heartbreaking. It's a naturalized citizen from Budapest, Hungary. Since June of 1983, her story is all the more heinous. She fought and went through the long process to become an American citizen. Then in 2002, a 3-time catch and release illegal immigrant killed her son. And what's even more worrisome, there is a new act that is being put in front of the House. The New Way Forward Act that's being introduced is especially worrisome, as stated in this video with Tucker Carlson. And I'm going to go ahead and play it for you before Agnes and I have our conversation, because you need to hear about this act and what, quite frankly, the left is trying to do. So here, I'm going to go ahead and start playing it.
At this moment, there's a bill pending in the Congress called the New Way Forward Act. It's received almost no publicity, and that's unfortunate, as well as revealing. The legislation is sponsored by 44 House Democrats, including Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's roughly 4,400 words long. That means it's almost exactly as long as the U.S. Constitution. Like the Constitution, it's designed to create a whole new country. The bill would entirely remake our immigration system with the explicit purpose of ensuring that criminals are able to move to the United States and settle here permanently with immunity. Now, you may think we're exaggerating for effect, but we're not exaggerating, not even a little bit. The New Way Forward Act is the single most radical piece of legislation we have ever seen proposed in this country, ever. It makes the Green New Deal look like the status quo. The document produced by Democrats to promote the bill says this, and we're quoting it verbatim: "Convictions should not lead to deportation," end quote. Now, keep in mind, we're not talking about convictions for double parking or even for DUI. The bill targets felony convictions, serious crimes that could send you to prison for years, and should. A press release from Congressman Jesus Garcia of Illinois is explicit about this. Garcia brags that the bill will break the, quote, prison to deportation pipeline, something most of us were for. So how does the bill do that? Well, under current U.S. law,
Oh, okay. Well, of course it does this. I'm going to go ahead and stop this and go ahead and hit escape and stop sharing the screen. And let's get right into speaking with Agnes. Okay, Agnes, thank you for being patient with me. I'm still learning this stuff.
Thank you so much for having me on your program.
Well, I've been really looking forward to doing this. I've been, been wanting to for quite some time. So I'm so glad you're here. Let's go ahead and start just a little bit. You're a naturalized citizen from Budapest, Hungary.
Correct.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of that, how you got here, what you had to go through to become a citizen, and etc.
Well, in 1956, when the former Soviet Union invaded Hungary, my parents tried to escape in December, and they got caught. They took everything away from them, but did not arrest them. So they got caught because I woke up in the middle of the night crying, so I alerted the guards, and that's what happened. So in January of 57, my parents went for the border again, this time through a help of my mother's friend who worked in a pharmacy. They helped me concoct something to help me sleep. And my parents were successful crossing into the former Yugoslavia, where we remained in a refugee camp for about 10 months. And my little brother, Jadranko, died there because they wouldn't allow my mother to go out after he was born to seek medical treatment. And by the time they allowed her, he died in her arms as they were admitting him in the hospital. Because my father was born in Yugoslavia, they wanted us to stay. And my mother said, no, we're going to America. And they refused to allow us to go to the American embassy, giving 3 choices: South Africa, Austria, my mother said no way, or Brazil. We ended up immigrating to Brazil, where we lived for 13 years, applied 3 times. The first 2, the application lapsed, and the third one almost lapsed by 1 day. Somebody came to alert us, knocked on our door. And the process started. They had done the background investigation on all of us, my mother, my father, my brother, myself. And so then we had to go through full medical exams, and you pay everything. This is nothing provided by anybody. And the most expensive doctors. And in November of 1970, we legally immigrated to the United States. And it wasn't until 1977 when I was going to go to Hungary. It was still a communist country, for the first time to visit my family that I have never met because I was 2 when we left. I found out that I was no longer a Hungarian citizen. Hungarian government had actually taken our citizenship away, and we were in the country as stateless, meaning we didn't belong anywhere. And it was really heartbreaking to know that my own country ousted us. I still don't have Hungarian citizenship. And in June of 1983, a 2-year process of applying and becoming a U.S. citizen, I am honored and proud to say I am an American citizen. And I honor and respect this country. And I took my oath of citizenship incredibly serious to defend my country against foreign and domestic invaders. And that's what I have been doing, very outspoken about illegal immigration. I am not against immigration, but do it legally. We have a process. You follow the law like my family did. You do not invade our country and just take over and demand things, because you have no right to demand anything here, just as much as I have no right to demand anything in the country where I was born.
That is beautifully said. And we're so glad, because you really have been an asset to America. Being titled an angel mom is a very sad title. And why don't you explain exactly what an angel mom is, and then tell us your story about your son. What happened?
An angel mom, an angel dad, or those who have lost a child at the hands of an illegal alien criminal. My only son, my firstborn, Ronald da Silva, was shot and killed by a previously deported illegal alien, who, by the way, after the shooting, immediately fled to Mexico. And he eventually turned himself in after the local police and sheriff found out he was depositing, his girlfriend was depositing her welfare check at the credit union, and he was using it to live on in Tijuana, in Mexico. He eventually turned himself in, went through the trial of the process. My son's murder shocked, it destroyed my family. It destroyed so much, it was such a shock that 4 months after my son was killed, my only sibling, my brother, Laszlo, had a massive stroke and died of the stroke the following day. And this illegal alien not only murdered my son, but indirectly murdered my brother too. He destroyed my family. My father wanted to die for 11 years, and until he died in March of 2013. And instead of feeling sad, I felt relieved for him, because for 11 years, all he wanted to do was to go to be with my son. And 2 years later, I lost my mother. So in honor of my mother, who sacrificed so much to come to this country, not to change it, but to give back, I decided to come forward and start speaking up about illegal immigration, and have done so since May of 2016. I have campaigned with President Trump many times, have been invited to the White House a couple of times, and I'm very outspoken about illegal immigration. This needs to stop. Our borders need to be secured, and we need to protect our own. We need to put Americans first. And that's why I decided to run for office, to try to make a difference and to bring integrity to the halls of Congress, because it's lacking in a huge way.
Well, you're here in California with me, and I've talked to quite a few people that are conservatives that are running for Congress, and every single one of them, just especially you, are so passionate about bringing the country back to the way it was meant to be, for we the people, not basically for the government, but for we the people, and to help keep us safe and to help bring our families together. So when you are running for Congress, everyone that's listening, I'm going to be real passionate about this. Individuals that run for Congress or any type of elected office that are conservatives have a great deal of difficulty getting in donations. Where on the left, or Democrats, there's all sorts of support. And they purposely have created it this way, where it is very difficult to make your voice heard. So this is where we the people must step up and help individuals like this who are doing their best to help America. They're putting a lot on the line to fight for us. We need to help support them. Not only, just support them emotionally, but support support them financially. They desperately need it. And if you want to make a difference in this country, you just heard what we were talking about the New Way Forward Act. Now, I had to shut it off because of the screen froze, but it was talking about what they're going to be doing in encouraging illegal immigrants to come here. And it also talks about having to do with, you know, the catch and release situation and not deporting them, and people that have already been deported, bringing them back. Can you believe that? So
I honestly can't, and I find it shocking to say the least that such a bill is even being introduced. Garbage like that should not even be near Congress for any consideration whatsoever. You see, my son's killer was deported. He was released in November. I fought for about 3 months with ICE, with everybody, with Voice, everybody that I could contact to make sure that my son's killer would be deported. And I'm proud to say that in the sanctuary state of California, I succeeded. He was released November 22nd, and it was immediately deported back to Mexico. Now, what is the rationale to bring him back to our country so he can victimize your family, to victimize somebody else, to create more victims? Absolutely not. And I'm not just talking about murder, which is the ultimate crime, because there's no coming back from that. There is, I'm talking about any kind of crime against any citizen. If they burglarize your house, you're always going to be traumatized that somebody invaded your space. If you're sexually assaulted, you have trauma for the rest of your life. And God forbid they rape a little girl, a little boy. You know, this has to stop. And for us to cater to criminals and to encourage them to come back. And on that video, the first time I watched, good thing I wasn't going to the doctor afterwards, because they would have put me on 2-3 kinds of high blood pressure medication, because they're talking about even murder should not be considered held against them. Are you serious? Are you kidding me? Is this a joke? When we immigrated here, we were told we have every right as an American citizen has, except to vote. My family and I never once thought to vote or get near a ballot place, a polling place. Never, until we became a U.S. citizen. And this fraud is being encouraged in our country. This needs to stop. And we were told, make sure you stay clean. Do not get involved in any crime whatsoever, because you can be removed from the country immediately. That's the way it should be. That's why they give you 5 years of adaptation to live in this country, to make sure you're not a criminal, because a criminal is not going to be able to stay 5 years without committing a crime, without a sexual assault, domestic violence, or raping, or burglarizing, or you know, doing gang activities. They're going to immediately get into it. And this is an insanity. I tell you, people need to, like you said, support patriots like myself running. Do your homework. See what they stand for, who they stand for, because the Democrats are going to be putting millions in candidates to make sure they keep their seats. And I don't need millions, hopefully, but maybe a few 100,000 to help fight this big battle in California. And I want to fight sanctuary state and sanctuary cities. That's unconstitutional. We cannot invite crime to our country, because you will walk in my shoes, and trust me, that is the worst footprints you want to follow of pain and grief. January 27th, I celebrated my son's would have been 47th birthday at the cemetery. I had a cake, a candle that he never gets to blow. And I clean his marker. That's my personal contact with my son. You do not want that happening to you or to your family. Trust me, it is the worst thing that can happen. Losing a child is bad enough through an illness or something like that. but to crime. And my son was shot. He died 3.5 hours later. He bled to death. And I am not against guns. I am for Second Amendment rights. And people are shocked. He says, well, a bullet took your son's life. Yes, a gun that was loaded by the Democrats and the trigger pulled by that gang member, illegal alien, criminal. That gun didn't load itself, walk down the driveway, point and shoot by itself. I have never seen a gun do that yet. But I am for our First and Second Amendment rights, and nobody is going to take that away from me. In Europe, they took our guns away, and then they massacred millions of people, and they had nothing to defend themselves. We have the right to defend our family and our property, and I will never take that away from any American, never. And we need to fight for that, and we need to fight for our freedom.
Just the idea of just bringing, it isn't just immigrants, it's like you said, criminals. It also with the drugs and the pedophiles and the bringing children across the borders, posing that it's their children to pretty much start trafficking and everything else. It's just an on and on and on situation. So, Agnes, I am very careful who I support. And just like with the news, I vet. I look into people. I look into the situations and who they know and what's been going on. And you are true blue. You are a woman full of energy that has constantly, as long as I've known you, which has been almost, a year now, that you have been out there fighting every single day. And this is before you decided to actually start running for Congress.
Mm-hmm. I'm very outspoken. I have been called communist. I have been called Nazi, KKK, sons of Donald Trump. Nothing matters because nothing hurts as much as seeing my son in that coffin. But I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that really offended me was I was wearing a picture on a t-shirt of my son, and this Latino guy with a huge cross hanging on his neck pointed at my shirt and says, "Good, another white supremacist dead." And I looked at him and I said, "Excuse me?" And he says, "Good, another white supremacist dead." I said, "This is my son." And he goes, "So?" And that was the first time ever that I lost my patience, and I called him an a-hole. And I said, "I hope your child ends up twice as deep as mine. How dare you say something like that?" And I felt bad for saying that afterwards, but for a month I cried. And I told my son, I said, "I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve this. You just don't deserve this. Your life was cowardly taken because our borders are not secure, because our judicial system is not keeping criminals out of our country, because after this guy was deported, he came back and got arrested for domestic violence and served, I think, 3 weeks in jail. Why didn't that judge say, wait a minute, what are you doing here? You had been deported, and turned him over to ICE. And this is before sanctuary state. So this corruption in our government in California has been going on for a long time. It hasn't just started with Gavin Newsom, people. It's been going on for a long time. When I immigrated to the United States, I was 16. We immigrated through LAX, and we lived for a short time in Los Angeles. I couldn't speak a word of English, nothing. I would watch Johnny Carson and say, what a handsome man. I wonder what everybody is laughing so hard. And I couldn't understand a word, but I would just watch because I would say, this is America, this is freedom. Our government is working so hard 24/7 to keep us safe, like a parent guarding their children. And I couldn't have been more wrong.
So you taught yourself English.
Yeah, and I taught myself English. And interestingly enough, while I went to English as a second language to learn English, I taught myself Spanish. So I speak Spanish quite well. My opponent does not, even though his name is Pete Aguilar. But I speak Spanish too. No, don't get, I love the Latino culture. I grew up in a Latino culture. I have nothing against Mexico. My sister-in-law, who's from Mexico, cried and said, I am so sorry. I hope you're not going to never talk to me because one of mine killed your son, my nephew. I said, you didn't kill my son. Mexico didn't kill my son. That one gang member did.
It's the ones that, again, the criminals that we're talking about. And it's not just Mexico, it's from any country.
Anywhere.
And it has to be vetted. California just happens to have much more from Mexico because they're right on the border. But yes, any country, criminal is what we're making this clear. Agnes, we're very close, I'm sorry, to the end of our show, but I want to be able to send the people that are listening someplace. Do you have a donation website that you can tell them right now and say it 3 times?
Yes, you can please visit my website. It's www.agnesgibboney. It's AgnesGibboney.com. Again, agnesgibboney.com. There's a donate button. Please donate and help. Doesn't matter how much. You can donate, make it a monthly donation. I am in the general already, so I don't have to fight so hard for the primary. And share my page. Let your friends and family know about me so they can, so I can win their vote. I'm fighting for you. I want to be your congresswoman to fight for us, the people, not for the establishment, and not to do corrupt things in Congress. I will not be sold out. Again, visit my page, agnesgibboney.com. On Facebook, my page is Agnes Gibboney for Congress. And thank you so much.
All right. Now let's go to agnesgibboney.com. And if you can't do very much, that's great. That's great. But if you can, this is where we really need to dig deep and do what we can to help. So Agnes can get out there and, quite frankly, help America. I will also put her website in the section up in the YouTube, so you can go ahead and click on it from there. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm just so glad to have you on. And we're going to do everything we can to help get you elected. I mean, POTUS loves you. I mean, being invited twice to the White House, he's been tweeting you. You've been on Fox News. You've been around. So
yeah,
let's go ahead and
thank you for having me on. It's an honor. And God bless all of you, and God bless our America. And let's defend and protect our great land. Let's not give up on our freedom. Please, let's not give up.
God bless America. Good night, everybody.